Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS's YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room. So please make sure that you read those if you have not already done so. And ladies and gentlemen, I do have an announcement for those in the boardroom and those watching on YouTube. There is maintenance work going on here at the Parham building today. In the event the fire alarm goes off, please know that there is no need for anyone to evacuate the building unless specifically told to do so. Our team here is monitoring that work and will advise us appropriately, and we thank you in advance. And now for the invocation. Oh God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve as written.
Second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Consensus? Okay. Item 2.04, establish the agenda order. Do we have a motion?
Move to establish the agenda as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have consensus. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to item 2.05, Educator of the Month.
Thank you, Mr. Selkworth.
Dr. Dubbin.
Today, the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County recognizes a teacher who uses her creativity to support initiatives at Chesapeake Science Point. She also serves in a leadership capacity as the 8th grade IDT leader, whether it's hosting a cultural haunted house for the annual Culture Fest or arranging team conferences for emerging students. She can be counted on as a building leader to show up for her students and colleagues, no matter the reason. Ms. Kelly Hyde, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Ms. Kelly Heidi, 8th grade English teacher from Chesapeake Science Point School. Ms. Heidi works tirelessly to allow opportunities for students to further explore the literature she teaches in her class. Her lessons are thoughtful, engaging, and consider our school's SIP plan. She works with students to help them improve emotionally, behaviorally, and academically. She was instrumental in implementing a schedule change to support healthy interactions among 8th graders. Kelly's overall demeanor brightens the work environment by being positive and welcoming. She is engaged in professional development to improve equity in the building. She is a consummate professional. She is calculated in her lesson planning, meets all deadlines, and treats everyone with dignity and respect. She is also self-aware as a professional and takes on only what she can manage. Finally, Ms. Heidi maintains good relations with students, staff, and the community by bringing people together. She does a great job reaching out to parents and the community with any concerns. She hosts yoga club for her colleagues, is always an active participant at meetings, events, and collaborative planning sessions. She can be counted on for both a good laugh and a discussion about content pedagogy. Kelly Heidi, the Board of Education, is proud to award you as the Educator of the Month for March 2024. Congratulations, and would you please come forward to accept this award?
Thank you so much. So we have a couple of things for you here. We have this plaque.
Thank you so much.
And we have a certificate, and I'm going to also give you the little speech that was read. So let's get a
Thank
couple
you.
of pictures. And so, how did they get you here today?
Mr. Jefferson told me that I would be speaking on behalf of Chesapeake Science Point, so very relieved that I'm not.
And who else is here? So Mr.
Just Mr. Jefferson. for me today,
Okay,
yes.
well, congratulations and welcome. Anything else you would like to say?
Oh gosh, I come from, my mom was a teacher for 41 years, so I got to see the benefit of education my entire life. I've never met anyone with more capability of touching students emotionally than my mom, and I just am honored that I can even do a portion of what she's able to do. So truly, I think education is a work of heart, and I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well, and afterwards, there will be some pictures up front. so-
Okay, thank you so much.
All righty.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to item 2.06, Employee of the Month. Ms. Dan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our employee of the month for March 2024 is so amazing that she was nominated twice in less than 1 month. She displayed an outstanding performance in her job-related tasks. She goes above and beyond from the school and the community of Brooklyn Park Elementary. The employee of the month for March 2024 is Ms. Joanne Taylor, Special Education and Teacher Assistant for Brooklyn Park Elementary School. Ms. Taylor will work with any student assigned to her small group, pushed into any classroom, and asked for her to lead adult interventions. She supports and attends PTA meetings, school sponsor, and other activities, food giveaways, and anything else that Brooklyn Park sponsors. She is willing to support any department, any staff member, and any student. She participates in all aspects of the school operations, including arrivals and dismissal duties, lunch duty, and instructions. Having worked at Brooklyn Park Elementary School for over 20 years, Joanne is a wealth of knowledge. She works all day with students with disabilities, but she does it with a genuine love for her job. She inspires the most resistant students in creative and engaging ways. Her role as a teaching assistant means she is constantly adjusting to new schedules, new students, and new requests made by all from her, while providing reading intervention across grade levels. Ms. Taylor's rewards her students with treats, love, and words of encouragement every single day. Ms. Taylor is described by her colleagues as a light on my sometimes stormy days. When behaviors are escalating, Joanne is always willing to listen and to be calm. Her position often calls for her to support all over the school building, and she does it with so much grace. No matter the task, Joanne is there, and she's here to support. Ms. Taylor is the epitome of all things student, all things staff, and community centered in the Brooklyn Park School and community. Did I mention that she is also an alumni? She is fulfilled and invested in the community. She knows and shows up each and every day in all that she does. The staff could not imagine their school without her, as it is a place of love, a place of learning, and a place of caring for each other. Ms. Joanne Taylor, the Brooklyn Park community, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and the Board of Education, thank you for your commitment to our students for over 20 years. Congratulations on earning the Employee of the Month for March, and would you please come forward and accept this award?
your face. You're messing your makeup.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell us what they did to get you here.
I told my guidance counselor, Aiden Selznick, said I was coming to pick up some boxes.
I was willing to give a hand, right?
Yes.
You have anyone in the audience with you?
Yes, I do. They just walked in. My daughter, Melissa Taylor, and my best friend, Phyllis Lucas, and our assistant principal, Karen Chisholm.
Nice. Well, welcome.
And Aileen Selznick, our counselor.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Picture them with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, we will take a brief break for some photos.
Wait, we have volunteers.
2.07, the volunteer of the month, but the volunteer is not here, and we're going to, I believe we're going to postpone this, and we will do this as soon as we can reschedule. Okay? So now we will take a break for photos. Gentlemen, item 3.0, public comments on agenda items. We do not have any public comments on agenda items this afternoon. So we'll move on to item 4.01, our policy committee report. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Ellis cannot be here today and had asked me to just deliver a quick update. The policy committee met yesterday at 3 p.m. and reviewed one policy, KFB, reporting crimes and delinquent acts, and passed it through with a couple of very minor changes. So it will be coming before the board in a couple of weeks' time, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. We'll move on to item 4.02, the president's report. And I do have a few things to talk about. I had the honor and the pleasure to speak to some Lindale students who made the principal's honor roll first semester, and there was a very large group. This was on February 29th, and I have to tell you that these Lindale students were absolutely amazing. I want to thank Mr. Nash, principal of Lindale, for inviting me to that event. On February the 28th, Dr. Bedell and I testified in the legislature in support of Senate Bill 909, which is the 180-day bill. On February 27th, I had the honor to attend an event at North County High School celebrating gifted and talented students in Anne Arundel County. We certainly have many, and that was another great event. Sports short, I was able to attend the Meade Old Mill basketball game last night, and I know Dr. Bedell was at another game. And it was an absolutely great event, and I can tell you that an Anne Arundel County team did win, which is absolutely marvelous. I knew going in that was going to happen. I will say the Mustangs did defeat the Patriots of Old Mill, but it was a wonderful game, and it was like 57-49, something like that. So that was always a pleasure. On Monday, I attended the regular meeting with the Scholarship for Scholars Foundation, and they are getting ready for their awards ceremony, which will take place, I believe it's May the 1st at Maryland Hall. Also had the opportunity to go on some surprise visits for our Teachers of the Year, and that is always, it's a surprise, but it's always a wonderful opportunity to meet with some of our great teachers and some of those that have been selected as finalists. I also had the opportunity to meet with the Plan 2040 Implementation Advisory Committee. We met on February the 29th to discuss progress and priorities for implementing strategies in the General Development Plan. And just for your information, Plan 2040 is the General Development Plan for Anne Arundel County. It sets the policy framework to protect the natural environment, shape development of the built-in environment, provide public services to promote healthy communities, and support a diverse and resilient economy. I was joined in the meeting by Mr. Roof. We thank Mr. Roof for being there, and also Dr. Heiser. We thank him as well. Dr. Tobin, was there a comment you wanted to make?
Yes, thank you very much, President Silkworth, for giving me a second. I was very fortunate to attend the big Read Across America event yesterday, sponsored by the Maryland State Education Association at Brooklyn Park Elementary School, who we just saw some representatives of. I wanted to say that the Patriots did a spectacular job. I also got to see the students who were recognized for this month's outstanding work. And I had the great pleasure of reading to Ms. Thompson's kindergarten class. And I want to thank them again for welcoming me and helping me learn a couple of new words in Spanish together. So thanks again to Brooklyn Park Elementary for welcoming us, and congratulations on being chosen by MSEA as the Anne Arundel County School where they hosted their Read Across America event.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So we'll now move on to item 4.03, the superintendent's report. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a lot of good news to share this week. I want to start by continuing what you talked about with the surprises with the 2024 Teacher of the Year Award. I had the pleasure, along with several board members, to surprise them last week. And it is one of the most exciting parts of this experience. What I really appreciate being able to see was how students reacted when they learned of the news. The Teacher of the Year will be announced on May 3rd during the Excellence in Education event at the Live Event Center. Speaking of finalists, we have 3 school librarians who are among the 8 finalists for the Maryland School Librarian of the Year Award. Congratulations to Terry Nielsen of Wall Chapel Elementary School, Amy Young Buckler of Mead Heights Elementary School, and Christina Zimmerman of Monarch Global Academy. The winner will be announced in May. 3 of our schools are among the 8 winners of the inaugural Maryland Purple Star Program honors. These honors are earned by schools for their work to recognize and support the unique needs of military dependents. Congratulations to Mead High School, MacArthur Middle School, and West Mead Early Education Center. More kudos, this time for our students. We're in the midst of Winter Athletics Championship season, and our teams and individuals are bringing home the gold. To date, our schools have won 2 winter state championships, Chesapeake and Glen Burnie in cheerleading. And on the slide, you can see 24 students who have captured individual state championships. Congratulations to all of them. We are proud of each and every single person and our teams. I understand we still have 8 teams in the running for basketball championships. You heard from our board president of the game that he attended last night with Meade. But let me read these schools: Crofton, Chesapeake, Glen Burnie, Severna Park, South River, and Southern on the girls' side. And as I've stated earlier, Meade and Northeast on the boys' side. The girls play tonight, which means that we're going to also knock out several of our own teams, because 4 of those teams will be competing against each other in the county. I'm looking forward to seeing our schools bring home more trophies, as we have already shown can be done in this county. I've said since I got here that I want us to become a great school system. A big part of that is enhancing the perception of our district, and everything I've talked about in the previous slides today is a big part of that. Here's more good news. Test Prep Insight. A study and test prep company spoke with 3,000 parents across the nation to find out which school districts they would most want their children to be in if they had choice. Our school district ranked 40th in the nation out of 250 schools in that survey, and ahead of all other Maryland school districts, in particular, ahead of all of the school districts in the entire DMV. So that's a testament to the quality of education and the type of employees that we have and the initiatives that we are willing to embark upon. And so we look forward to leveraging this news as we look to open up the upcoming school year, but also from a recruitment standpoint. And speaking of a recruitment standpoint, on Saturday, more than 200 candidates who want to be teachers in our school district came to the teacher recruitment job fair at Severna Park High School. That's one of the largest turnouts we've had in recent years, and it speaks to where we are going as a school district. Thanks to everyone on our HR team for their hard work at this event. You'll hear more about our HR work to recruit and retain a high quality, diverse workforce later on in this meeting. We kicked off our series of 7 community conversations on Monday night at Broadneck High School, and it was great for me and members of our cabinet and senior leadership to be able to interact with families, students, employees, and community members. That also includes board members. We have our second session at 5 p.m. today at Wally H. Bates Middle School. And as you can see on the screen, there are 5 others scheduled through May. I hope everyone takes advantage of the opportunity to come and spend an hour with our team discussing issues that are important to them. What's important for me to note is the motto is different because we have all of our cabinet members in attendance, broken into tables with selective staff members to engage with our community on issues that really are important to them. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to hear from the community as we work to complete our strategic plan and to really be ready to run here come July 1 of this year. Finally, I do want to update everyone on our vacancies. I've spoken to you all about the fact that the teacher vacancies will no longer be on this chart because it's pretty static at this point. Our work now is to work on recruitment for the upcoming school year. It doesn't mean that we have stopped recruiting, but that number is going to be pretty much static. We continue to work in these other areas because these are positions that we absolutely need filled. And we think that it's a little bit easier to fill these positions at this juncture in the school year than it is a teacher vacancy as we close out the year. I'll also want to remind this school board that the work in HR has shifted again to staffing for the upcoming school year. And this was the case last year. Mr. President, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Ms. Schauheim.
I just wanted to say that the community conversation that I attended at Broadneck on was Monday night. Thank you. The days sort of flow together. Was amazing. I thought that the presentation was really well done. I can attest to the fact that parents basically, because of at Broadneck, there was, not a huge amount of attendance. They were essentially given one-on-one specialized attention with senior staff and cabinet members. I just thought the model was really, really well done. And I assume that my colleagues will be attending the various ones in their districts, and they're gonna find them really, really cool. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Schauheim. And I do want to say this to the board and to the community. We did get immediate feedback at the Broadneck community conversation. One of that piece of feedback we've already implemented. One of the parents said, it's nice to know that the cabinet members are coming. So when you guys sent out your information, it may have had chief of staff, but what you didn't have that we had when they came in person was these posters that had what departments reported to each of the cabinet members. So we ended up adding that. So now when it goes out, that way, if a parent wants to really understand who addresses transportation, they will understand that that's under the chief operating officer, and they know then to go directly, what table to go directly to. So we've taken feedback, and we'll continue to take feedback as we try to refine this model. But thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that I had the great honor of joining Dr. Bedell and other staff members to surprise Ms. Skinner, a special education teacher at Annapolis High, for the Teacher of the Year finalist notification. But we got to do it at the Giant Food on Riva Road, which was where she had her students who go regularly to help work in the store to sort things, organize things as part of their life skills work. And in fact, there was an Annapolis High alumni who's a permanent of the same program, who's a permanent employee, who was able to be in the photographs with us. So I just want to congratulate Ms. Skinner, but also to thank our partners at the Giant on Riva for the great work they do affording our students those wonderful opportunities. So thank you.
That was an amazing experience. Thank you for sharing that.
Ms. Dent.
I would love to say that probably the best day I had since I've been on this board was Friday at Monarch Global Academy. They had the most impressive career day I've ever seen. They had what I call out of the box careers. Now, NASA, that was probably impressive. They had people from Johns Hopkins, but the most impressive one was a gentleman that used math to determine how the brain thinks. Yes, that's a thing. And so he was really showing them how the brain functions and how math and defining math is a way to see what the outcome of what's wrong with your brain. But these kids are grades, first grade through ninth grade, and no, through eighth grade. And what was really impressive about it is each one of them was just as intrigued by every person that was there, and they had great questions for them. So I guess either I'm getting old or the job career is really changing because they were intrigued by every single thing. And the last thing I want to add is Microsoft did an AI, which I was pretty impressed, but the kids wasn't. Because apparently they know what Nintendo do and all this other stuff. But I was just really impressed with how much innovative thought process and innovative thinking and futuristic thinking that Ms. Abel was able to pull together for her career day. And I think I'm proud of that. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now move on to presentations. Item 5.01, new course approval. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of this course, AP seminar, beginning in the 2024-2025 school year as noted. For this presentation, we have our staff members who will introduce themselves.
For the record, my name is Michelle Batten, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. I am joined today by Mary Talar, Assistant Superintendent for Advanced Studies and Programs. And if you have any questions at the end of the presentation today, we will be happy to answer them. In accordance with board policy for curriculum, today we will present one course for your approval. ACPS educational goals is to ensure that every student belongs, grows in learning, and meets or exceeds standards in achievement. This includes the elimination of excellent gaps, as there is a moral imperative to meet the instructional needs and align rigorous instructional paths for all. As you know, courses in AACPS are designed to provide county students with rigorous, relevant, and inclusive opportunities that will enable them to successfully navigate and positively impact the 21st century global societies as change makers.
English 10 AP Seminar, a new Anne Arundel County Public School 1-credit weighted course, is offered currently to nearly 3,000 students in grade 10 within the state and nationally. The course utilizes our current English 10 curriculum, but is taught in an AP seminar style, offering a balanced focus on composition, research, and literature. It affords more flexibility in cross-curricular content exploration while also building mastery in English 10 standards. This new offering, promoted by both MSDE and College Board, will support the building of foundational skills. It will also provide sustained practice of investigating issues from evidence-based arguments, supporting success on MCAT. As with College Board, who through a crosswalk analysis combine these courses as they recognize the skills learned in AP seminar overlap with the standards in English 10, we believe this course will further prepare our students for future college career readiness opportunities, as we see this AP course as a gateway opportunity or access option for 10th graders. It is important to note that this new course is aligned to Maryland's blueprint and the college and career designation. Upon approval, our plan is for this course to be field tested in 4 schools as of the 24-25 school year. With an integrated writing approach this summer and a professional development partnership plan with College Board for the required training, which is critical for the AP presentation scoring, implementation will occur in the fall of 2024 for the pilot. As with other LEAs, Montgomery, Carroll, and Baltimore City, our pilot will enable us to collect and assess the data for our students before moving to every school. But that is our goal. The goal is that it becomes a system release for all high schools the following year, 25-26. It is important to note that the current implementation plan or site designations were based on data chats and AP exam data assessments with the administrations in consideration of their student population. We also considered our current AP offerings with schools who are looking to grow their AP programs for students not traditionally taking AP courses. This concludes our presentation. At this time, we are open to any board questions.
Okay, Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Silkworth, and thank you very much for a thorough presentation. My only question is actually just sort of a recall, refresh my memory. The English 10 MCAP, when is that actually administered to the student? Like, when is it in their sophomore year?
Yes.
And then what time of
Conclusion of the
year?
course.
That's the fall?
In the spring.
That's the spring one. So in helping them meet that obligation, then the core of it, the instruction relevant to the materials with the testing would have to then be completed prior to that testing in order for it to effectively affect their testing outcomes, right?
So we'd be using our current AP
Mhm.
seminar course as an integrated model of skill development in our existing English 10 course. So the sequence of our instructional delivery model isn't changing. It's just building on an opportunity to engage differently and to really build the aptitude as well as the confidence to be successful in that course as an AP offering of rigor.
So, but effectively, the MCAP thing, we're testing them before they've completed their actual sophomore year, as if they've completed their sophomore year. If we're doing it in the spring and there's still a whole semester, a whole marking period left,
Marking period.
or no?
So typically MCAP is given early May and AP testing is probably mid-May. So it's right around the time.
Oh, it is. Okay, because I suddenly thought this month somehow, not the May part of spring. Closer to the end. Okay, that clarifies it now. That's what I was trying to figure out is the timeline in my brain. And are we making sure we're hitting our mark?
Yeah, we would not compromise the scope and sequence,
Of the
the
existing
scope and
course.
sequence that would become a disadvantage for our students. Rather, we think having the rigor added to this should absolutely increase their performance on MCAPs when it's all said and done.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a space we want to be in. Thank you. And the fact that we can offer something to a broader group of folks, I think of a lot of transfer students even who aren't fully acclimated will still have some of those opportunities that we have limited academically in past. So thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to add that I was very happy to see this. And I think, and this is just anecdotal, and before the emails start coming, I think AP is a wonderful program. But one of the things I noticed as a college professor myself, and I have heard over the years from a number of college professors, is that there is a vast difference between kids who come out of IB versus kids who come out of taking a lot of AP, specifically in their writing ability. And I'm very glad to see this added to the sequence because I think it may,
Agree.
for many other reasons that have been noted, I think it will also complement, and I assume that's one of your reasons for doing it, the AP sequence that students have, even though obviously there are research papers and so on that AP students are required to write. For whatever the reason, the IB training in writing seems to go deeper often and set students up very well for college. And in my view, for anything, because if you can write and communicate, you're ahead of the game. So that's all to say, I'm delighted and I look forward, hopefully, to it being expanded to all the schools after a successful pilot. So thank you both for doing this.
Ms. Shahar.
Yes, I love approving new courses, and this one I was very excited about for a lot of the same reasons that Dr. Tobin was laying out. And you answered my question in your presentation about the rollout to all schools. So then that would hopefully occur for the 25-26 school
Correct.
year. Okay, great. And yeah, I looking forward to approving this. Thank you.
Mr. Lynn.
Thank you. So, what are the key differences between an AP seminar course and like the Honors English 10, the Standard English 10? Because I'm not really familiar with like AP seminar.
So AP seminar is really taking the presentation skills and the understanding of more that depth in investigation to a higher level than the Honors English, because it's utilizing a unique instructional framework that really builds upon the child's ability to research independent examinations, to excite evidence and arguments, and present in a unique way. Part of the AP exam will actually be a presentation. That's why it's so critical that our teachers are trained on those aspects and those tenets of really ensuring that the child has shown competency and mastery of not just the content, but also those skills.
Okay, so, and that kind of alludes into my second question. So in May, there is an AP exam for this course?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's
then-
weighted as an AP course.
Okay, that's the thing.
I was like, reading your mind.
Okay, seeing no more lights, do we have a motion?
Move to approve this course selection.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Ms. Howe?
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent? Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Nay.
And Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
6-1, motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item 5.02, Workforce Diversity Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will have our HR team to come up and take us through this annual update to the board and the community on our workforce diversity efforts. And they will introduce themselves for the record and present.
Good afternoon, President Silkworth, Vice President Frank, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. I'm Jessica Cutchess, Chief Human Resources Officer. With me today is Mr. Scott McGuire, Senior Manager of Human Capital, and Ms. Shanika McKenzie, Senior Specialist of Workforce Diversity. We have the pleasure today to share with you our annual update on recruitment and retention with a focus on workforce diversity. As a part of this presentation, you received our annual Educator Recruitment and Workforce Diversity Data Packet. On the screen, you will see some acronyms we may reference throughout this presentation. As we continue to align all of our efforts, you will notice tenets of the blueprint for Maryland's future and AACPS's workforce diversity policy woven throughout our work and reflective in this presentation. Along those lines, we recently submitted our second annual blueprint report regarding workforce diversity to the General Assembly, AIB, and MSDE in December 2023. While this compliance piece is important, even more crucial is the evidence that having a teacher that matches students' racial identity increases reading and math scores, reduces the use of exclusionary disciplinary practices, and increases the likelihood of graduating from high school and matriculating into post-secondary institutions. Anyone following the news in education knows that teacher recruitment remains challenging and competitive, and this is heightened for teachers of color. According to a recent article published in the Baltimore Banner, teachers of color, specifically Black teachers, are underrepresented in the state, with a third of Maryland students identifying as Black, but just 20% of their teachers. In Maryland, teachers of color leave the profession at higher rates than white teachers, per the Baltimore Banner article. The most often reasons cited were because of an expensive and confusing certification process, a lack of mentorship and growth opportunities, and schools with little to no colleagues that they can relate to. Due to the lack of available professionally certified teachers, there is a continued reliance on conditionally certified teachers to staff our classroom vacancies. In Maryland, 3,567 teachers were conditionally certified during the 21-22 school year. That's twice as high as it was 5 years ago. As we work to recruit teachers at all levels of experience, AACPS has laid the groundwork to increase salaries in the hopes of attracting the best and brightest educators to our district. With the support of the county executive, county council, and this Board of Education, Starting salaries increased to $58,161 for new teachers, with a $2,000 stipend for special educators. This increase helped to move AACPS starting teacher salaries from 19th to 14th in the state and first in starting salaries for special educators. We have seen an increase in the applicant pools from 12,206 during the 22-23 hiring season to 13,744 during the 23-24 hiring season, which has helped to reduce classroom vacancies this year. Conditional teachers continue to aid in increasing the diversity of teaching staff. Conditionally certified educators comprise 44% of all newly hired teachers this year, but make up 57% of racially diverse newly hired educators compared to just 43% for white new hires. I will now turn it over to Mr. McGuire to discuss some of the strategies he and our team employ to continue to build a strong educator workforce.
Recruitment and staffing has taken a data-driven approach to both recruitment and retention. Through our partnership with technology, we're able to build a platform to help us analyze retention trends. Through this effort, we were able to identify our most needed position and schools of focus. I would like to highlight the work of all of our principals for understanding the current landscape in recruitment. Specifically, schools like Lyndale, MacArthur Middle School, and Freetown Elementary School attended any and all recruitment events and opportunities to fill their vacancies, and we're happy to report that they are in a much better place this year than they were the year before. Analyzing new teacher separation data year over year by various factors such as race, gender, and certification, etc., we have found that those most likely to leave AACPS are separating in year 2 and have less than 5 years of experience. Ms. McKenzie will highlight our recruitment strategies employed this year by our team.
Good afternoon. AACPS recruiters completed 70 recruitment trips during the 2023-2024 hiring season. 20% of these trips were diversity-focused events. A complete list of all recruitment trips was included in the Workforce Diversity Data Packet that was provided to you today. We also hosted virtual recruitment events to share information with both local and out-of-state applicants using the Indeed and Brazen platforms. AACPS participated in several community events, including the African Heritage Festival and Anne Arundel County Fair, just to name a few. During these events, we encourage county residents to consider careers with our school system. We continue to host our annual teacher recruitment job fair with a focus on encouraging participation from teachers of color. And as our Hispanic Latino population continues to grow, we are recruiting bilingual educators through our annual hiring event in Puerto Rico. AACPS also had a recruitment presence at the 2023 National Alliance of Black School Educators Annual Conference, where our superintendent, Dr. Mark Bedell, was named Superintendent of the Year. We continue to use open offers to lock in strong candidates, and our HR staff is providing individualized outreach and support to school leaders to help better match candidates with school vacancies.
We have implemented a retention task force aimed at analyzing data to continue to increase our retention rate and provide actionable strategies to school leaders that they can implement in their buildings. The workforce monitoring team is partnering with the Anne Arundel Alliance of Black School Educators to host events to recruit and retain educators of color. We have continued our beginning teacher liaison stipends to provide additional school-based support to new teachers. We are continuing our Grow Your Own efforts through partnerships with colleges and universities. One such example are the 18 current AACPS employees who are currently completing their student internship with Bowie State University. We have others in various stages of completing their degree, and upon completion, we are looking forward to hiring them as fully certified teachers in AACPS.
To highlight a few of our recruitment successes, this past Saturday, AACPS hosted our 2024 Teacher Recruitment Job Fair, which was attended by nearly 200 educators. This represents a 20% increase in attendees from last year. Over 860 interviews were conducted with school administrators at this event, and our recruitment team is working to follow up with attendees. Furthermore, 81 educators who attended our 2023 job fair are currently working in our schools this year. During our 2024 trip to Puerto Rico, AACPS hosted 2 hiring events and conducted 3 school presentations at the University of Puerto Rico Mayagüez, University of Puerto Rico Aguadilla, and University Ana G. Mendez campuses. 9 open contracts were extended during these events. Last summer, AACPS hosted 3 job fairs at schools in different regions of the county, and due to their success, AACPS will host 5 job fairs this spring at strategic locations to attract displaced educators from surrounding counties. And finally, we have added 95 new nationally board certified teachers to our ranks, bringing the total to 408 in Unit 1. We are happy to report that during the 2023-2024 school year, the percentage of newly hired educators of color remains at nearly 1/3 for the second year in a row. And while we are happy to see the racial diversity of our new hires continue to rise, we remain cognizant of the fact that we still have more work to do to develop an overall workforce that is truly reflective of the students that we serve. Thank you, and we are happy to answer your questions at this time.
Ms. Shalheim.
Thank you for the presentation. I always appreciate the level of detail, especially this year, and knowing where we are. I think it's fantastic the amount of recruitment fairs that you all attended. I love seeing the detailed report of exactly which states and all of that. And I just commend you on your ongoing efforts to recruit and then retain a diverse workforce. Thank you. That really looks like the students that we serve. Thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Yes, thank you. I echo Ms. Schulheim's comments. Obviously, you are doing incredible work. Thank you. And I think I'm glad to see that I think some of the work that's happened to make working here as attractive as possible is beginning to pay off. So thank you. I just wanted to ask, if possible, to give some context to where we are. So at the end of the last slide, we're essentially at 1/3 with regard to our diversity hires, if I'm following. How does that measure up to state data, any other national data that you might have?
Sure. So we'll start with national data. So in 2020, 2021, public school teachers were 80% white, 9% Hispanic, 6% Black, 2% Asian, and 2% were 2 or more races. And then less than 1% were American Indian, Alaska Native, and less than 0.5% were Pacific Islander. And for state data, according to MSDE's 2022-2023 teacher diversity report, they had report 68.2% white, 21.5% Black, African American, and 10.2% all other races.
Okay, so we're ahead of the game is what I'm hearing. We need to keep going, but I'm glad to hear that. I think for us and for the public, contextualizing this is valuable. So congratulations on your work, and thank you.
Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Silkworth. Thank you for very great presentation. Seeing the progress made over the last 5 years of my sitting in the seat is awesome. I do want to just dig in a little deeper on our Hispanic and Latinos in education. I know that through the U.S. Department of Education and based on presidential executive order, there's some additional initiatives and programs. And I'm just wondering, because some of them are pretty fresh, in the last couple of years, are we engaging in some of those programs? Because I noticed that we still don't have alliances for Hispanic and Latino educators, school educators, but we do have in one category, but we don't in our other categories of folks of color. So I was just wondering what progress we have made to go beyond the Puerto Rico trip to engage and continue to recruit, because our numbers are, we know in the next 2 to 5 years, we're going to be flipping that number even further. And a third is a third for one particular group, but then there's still the 1 of 4 in the Hispanic Latino nationally. And I don't know what our reporting is otherwise. It sounds like we're a little higher at 10.2 as a state. I don't know how we are, I'm looking at our new recruit numbers. And so I was just wondering if you could share information on what we're doing to advance that so we don't fall behind as the numbers continue to grow.
No, it's an excellent observation, and certainly somewhere where we need to continue to improve. One of the things under Ms. McKenzie's leadership, so we have a workforce diversity monitoring team, which is cross-functional across the system, and that has been a topic of discussion. And so one of the things that we're doing is helping ASBE partner to stand up a support group for Hispanic educators, because yes, we need to hire, but also retain. So that's one of the efforts. And then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. McKenzie to speak in a little further specifics.
So in addition to trying to create support programs for current Hispanic Latino educators, we are evaluating which states are producing the most educators to determine how we might form partnerships. We do find that most states with the higher numbers are going to be in the Southeast, Midwest, and Western portions of the country. So the also other things that are important to consider is in what ways can we support those who are relocating to those areas, because as the cost of living continues to rise, people are less hesitant to move until they know how they can be supported. So we're working through our grant funding to determine how we might use those resources to help support recruiting people from those parts of the country who are interested in becoming teachers.
Yeah, I saw North Carolina state has a really good educator program on the rise, and actually has gotten to a part where they formed an alliance of educators, because from what I'm reading, it sounds like inside that alliance, they're able to form those national partnerships and actually create a network by which you can recruit and retain by having that additional support. So that's great that we're starting to do that as we go through. Just lastly, I would look forward to a day, Dr. Bedell, where we are filling out one of these nomination forms on the Latinos Teach Department of Education initiative for innovative ways of engaging our students and while supporting their needs from people that represent them and look like them. So thank you. Excellent work. Great to see the progress.
Ms. Deb.
Thank you. Yes, excellent report, excellent work. It is a marked improvement from last year, so I don't know if you just changed the numbers around or if you guys are just working hard, but I suspect you're probably just working hard. So two questions. The first one is the balance, right? So I see the numbers going up in retain. I think it's page 7 that talked about new unit employee retention. When you did the comparison of conditionally to whites to all others, is there any research done that because we're recruiting heavy on the diversity side, is that diminishing the teachers that are leaving that are white, or is it just that it's starting to balance itself out? Because it says that 79% of the ones that are conditionally stayed or left, as opposed to 71% that are white. So I'm just wondering, is there an error there? And that's not anything you have to answer there. I always caution myself about making sure that the demographics don't get turned upside down. The intent is there. And that's just me from years of experience of making sure that we keep the demographics balanced. That's one. The other one is notice on the chart, I can't find it, of chart page 2, is on the non-binary. Is that a recruitment effort, chart 1 that talks about, chart A1 that talks about race and gender by demographics? That's who you recruited, correct? That's who, right. And so when you're talking about the non-binary, can you talk a little bit about how you target that population, or is it just individuals decide if they want to self-identify? Is that how the statistics came about? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of the information you provided. Great presentation, and you are working hard. We all know that, so thank you so much. Okay, we're moving on to item 5.03, Bus Badge Pilot Program.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will have staff to come up and present to you all on the pilot. I like to use the words interchangeably, pilot or beta testing. We beta test the pilot program in the Crofton cluster. And what we wanted to do was to provide feedback from our findings to the board and the community on whether we will move forward or begin to look at something different. I think the findings will be supportive of the recommendation. And it's not a recommendation, it's just an update to the community on the direction we're going to move forward. So I'll pass it over to Dr. Heiser to take us through this slide deck.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Good afternoon, President Silkworth, Vice President Frank, members of the board, and Superintendent Bedell. For the record, I am Bill Heiser, Chief Operating Officer, and I'm presenting you the findings from the Bus Badge Pilot Program that is nearing completion. This presentation will provide an overview and scope of the pilot. I'll discuss the notable achievements from the pilot, as well as supporting data. I'll also review some challenges that the pilot identified. And lastly, I'll share the next steps regarding this pilot and share 2 future uses of the bus badge. And at the end, I would be happy to answer any questions. The Z-Pass pilot launched on November 8th, 2023, with the rollout of bus badges to all eligible bus riders in 6 Crofton schools. Now let me explain. Riders scanned a passive RFID card to the Z-Pass reader inside the bus door as they board and exit. Z-Pass then captures the data, time, and location of each scan, then transmits that to a secure database. So during this overview and pilot, the Crofton bus riders were optionally participating in this pilot by scanning their bus badges when they enter and exit the bus each morning and afternoon. Again, data from those scans were reported to an internal dashboard, which was attempting to show us bus ridership, bus capacity, and student rosters on each bus. There were several key staff players involved in this pilot, and I think it's important to point out that this was a team effort that we're really proud of. There certainly were pilot school staff that were involved and principals and staff members at each school, and they were administering the pilot within their own building. They were printing new and replacement badges, providing replacement badge accessories as needed. It was quite a lift for those principals. Our transportation staff was heavily involved, and they're engaged with the pilot schools to monitor the program and address any questions, specifically working with not only student riders, but working with our contractors and our bus drivers. And we also had technology staff, and they helped provide support for any issues that arose during the pilot. Specifically, I want to point out Christy Tuning, who was our project manager for this. And you heard in a previous presentation how important the technology department was in terms of the progress that they're making. And the same is true for this pilot. This would not have taken off if it weren't for the integrated work that's done between all 3 offices, really: technology, transportation, and our schools. The scope of the pilot is really important to point out. Sometimes there may be confusion about what the scope was supposed to be versus what it really is. So we thought it was important to point out what this scope of this pilot was. It was an opportunity to measure and increase safety. In the event of emergency, scan data could be pulled to identify who was on the bus, assuming that they scanned. It also could help identify when and where a rider got on or off a bus. Also, the pilot was used to help as a method to analyze historical ridership data on the bus. How many students are riding a particular bus in that Crofton cluster at a time? So it's a way for us to capture data, talk about program expansion, and also take a look at this universal card. We refer to it as the bus badge, but there's an opportunity for a universal card aspect to use in various ways throughout our school system. What the pilot was not. It was not an opportunity to take a look at real-time data on where students were specifically to track students. There was no family app, so families could not check in and see where their student was on a particular ride or where they were not. And again, this is important to point out, that we didn't mandate this for bus entry and exit. It was optional, and that impacted our results. But we know there's an overwhelming philosophy to ensure that we help our students travel safely to and from school, regardless if they have a card or not. Some notable achievements that I really wanted to point out. First of which, GPS scanners were installed on 34 buses. And so that required us to work, and our team to work, with 6 different bus contractors using their GPS data. That's not an easy thing to do, and it takes relationships to get that done. So kudos to our transportation team. Badges were distributed to 3,700 students at 6 schools. Thank you to those students and schools and those students that were willing to do that. That was a major undertaking. And I'd like to point out the schools involved: Crofton Elementary, Crofton Meadows, Crofton Woods, Nantucket, Crofton Middle, and Crofton High School. As I mentioned, we were also able to create some custom reporting dashboards that our IT department assisted us with. Those were very helpful as we looked at the data. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the excellent collaboration between the offices that I'd already mentioned, I don't think is too small to point out. So thank you to all involved. Certainly lays the groundwork for us to do future projects and enhance the work that our teams are doing together. Pilot data. The data from the pilot and the Power BI dashboard shows that scan data had steadily declined since the pilot launched on November the 8th. As you see in the beginning of the pilot, we had just over 1,100 students who were scanning in the morning and scanning in the afternoon. And that steadily declined to around 200 scans per day. That might be alarming to you, but there are reasons for that, and I'll help explain that in a little bit. Some challenges. There were 5 unique and very evident challenges associated with this pilot. The first, student usage of bus badge is not required to ride a bus. Therefore, there was a lack of buy-in. So you can imagine going from 1,100 scans, or starting out with 37 distribution of cards, and only 1,100 scanning, and then ending up at 200. Again, optional scanning will not produce the quality data on ridership or capacity for transportation. Optional scanning won't produce accurate student bus rosters in the event of an emergency. And so without that robust data, using an app would really kind of be pointless in many respects. Again, I think it's really important to point out, requiring that badge is not something that we want to adopt as a philosophy of our school system. We believe in transporting all students safely to and from school. And so it's really important that we say, how can we assist our students to the best way possible, with or without a badge? The second challenge that we faced was that the software does not support robust integration with AACPS student data. That's a fancy way of saying that our systems weren't speaking to each other. We're operating at such a scale at 85,000 students. Don't underestimate the size of our school system. And this company that we're working with has more familiarity and more confidence at a much lower scale. So economy of scale is a real issue in this regard. One thing to point out in regard to that not speaking with each other, why would it matter? Student mobility happens within our system on a daily basis. So when a student leaves, their card is still active. And so there's no way to do that. That would have to be hand done for all the students that are coming in and out after you do your first run of cards. Somebody physically, one of our IT people or transportation folks, or maybe even at the school level, would manually have to do that card, which is quite a heavy lift, and causes many concerns as you start to go down that rabbit hole. Another challenge that we identified was that expansion across AACPS would be time-consuming for administrators. We know how imperative it is for our school administrators, our principals, our staff to keep the focus centered on students and teaching and learning. I could tell you stories about 20 years ago when I was in a different school system as a school administrator, and we had ID cards, and everyone was required to have an ID card. And when they didn't, you had to issue a temporary ID card. And the administrative person hours that were caught up in doing so was pretty troubling. And after a while, they did away with the program. This reminded me a little bit of that. While there are some benefits, the time consumption that it would take for a school at that level to do that across the board would take the hard work and focus. And in talking to our chief academic officer and the academic team, we squarely want to focus on teaching and learning, as does the superintendent. Number 4, expansion would be far too costly. Purchasing, installing, training, all the printers and badges, it's a fairly extraordinary amount of money. The total cost of this pilot was just under $50,000. So when you scale this out, it'd be over $1 million to expand this across our district. The last thing I'll mention is the viability of ZPass as a company. While I don't mean to cast shade on the company, it is important to point out, again, that this is a company used to work with smaller districts. There's also many, many companies within this space. And so the emerging technology that's going to be coming forward is something that we need to keep our head up and look outward upon. We don't necessarily want to partner with the first company at the first opportunity if the company won't be around or they can't scale to our needs. We think it would be irresponsible to do so. Some next steps. I have 4, which I'd like to offer. One is to discontinue the bus badge pilot in the Crofton schools on April 5th. That would give us 2 full marking periods of good tracking on this pilot, which we found was good. It would also discontinue it and not bother school administrators in doing so prior to the busy testing season that we'll have coming up. And so we'd like to communicate the end of that pilot to the Crofton schools and families in the near future. Again, we'll work with those school staff to make every effort to collect all the badges and from the bus riders and collect all the hardware and supplies associated with it. 2, part of that we're doing today, and that's reporting the results of this pilot to the board, but also report the outcomes to the community of Crofton. They went through this pilot and they deserve to hear the results and how it went. 3 would be to continue to explore transportation-related software and service enhancements in the future, and I just mentioned that just before. We need to make sure that there are going to be opportunities now that we have a very steady and solid transportation, bus transportation reliability this school year, which we think we've demonstrated. It's important to see how we can modernize our bus transportation, and we're willing and we want to do so. Lastly, we believe the school system should investigate the use of a badge in areas where it may have more common universal impact benefits, such as food services, library, perhaps athletic and sporting events, those kinds of places. There are other uses of the badge program, and so the excess supplies that we have from the pilot won't go unneeded. There won't be waste. We won't be able to use some of these items in other programs. And so you'll see, we'll continue to use the bus badge quite successfully in our special education students, which offers us a great benefit. And we also are in the process of establishing a badging program for our bus driver in-service training. So again, any way that we could use those, the better. In closing, while we have decided not to proceed with the full implementation of the ZPass bus transportation program, the pilot phase has proven invaluable in providing us crucial insights and lessons. The strategic decision to pilot the program reflects our commitment to be responsible and make informed decisions. And through this process, we learned extensively about the unique challenges, enabling us to make data-driven decisions and refine our approach. So with that, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to highlight some of the successes and some of the challenges. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say we have several team members from transportation here today. The Director of Transportation, Cherry Whitehead. Jason Djelski is here. He's the Manager of Operations. John Blair is here. He's in technology as well. and Christy Tuning is here as the project manager. So thank you to them and thank you, board. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Heiser. Ms. Crocodile.
Thank you, President Silkworth. Thank you very much, Dr. Heiser. I greatly appreciate the feedback and the postscript report. Just two questions. One's a very quick technical one. The 3,700 students in the cluster, does that number, is that a gross number or a number of riders?
That reflects the bus riders.
Okay.
We made the decision early on that walkers would not get the bus badge, and we went back and forth on that a few times, and then common sense prevailed.
Okay, I was just saying, kind of saying it out loud again. I thought that's how I remembered it, but I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Because then when you start to see the other numbers, right?
Yeah.
How they pull through, and I think the logic is very reasonable. We know that there would be a great benefit to it, and when the technology and the programs and the structure accommodate for that opportunity, it looks like we're well positioned to take it. And using in the micro to ensure our special education fleet is up and running is great. I am curious though, for the Crofton, like the postscript information, if we couldn't get a survey of the students and the staff, because really it wasn't a parent involvement thing as much as it was our students and our staff, because I think we would find some micro differences between the different levels based on the age of the child to understand, as well as the staff. And I think capturing the data while it's fresh in everyone's brain as sort of like and here, something to fill out too, could go a long way to helping identify future RFPs or RFIs that we may want to engage with some of these companies as they continue.
Agree completely.
Okay.
We can definitely find a way to get anecdotal student information that we can leverage in the future, particularly around their behaviors and their thinking about using the card. Yes.
Correct. Yeah, because I think it creates an image sometimes of safety and security,
Right.
Even though we know that was not being tracked directly in live. And I'll just say that I'll just add to your rationale in concluding the pilot at this moment in time. I was consulting with a company who did a similar pilot for fingerprinting in one of the Baltimore City high schools. And it was a school-based one, not a bus-based one, but it still was attempting to do the same thing. And even though that system had, like, you could pull up on your computer that live data, the ability to aggregate it and use it still posed significant problems for it to be practical in its use. And so I think we're almost there in technology, but not quite there yet. And then there's, of course, the students themselves and GPS and all that jazzy stuff. So, but I do appreciate all the hard work everybody's put in. I know the Crofton community, I would just report, I only had one complaint from one resident that had concerns, and it related to the natural concern of any of these projects. I remember hearing it from my clients, folks, is that, are we making sure that personal data is kept safe and secure? And could someone possibly use it nefariously? In this case, absolutely not. But they never received a complaint, concern, or otherwise from the parents. I think some did suggest to their students that they did not need to use it because they were not comfortable with it. But by and large, it was very well received. And I'm looking forward to a future, maybe a couple of years down the road, where we'll be better technology enabled.
Dr. Tobin.
Good future business opportunity for some IT company, right?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm grateful for hearing what we've gleaned from this, and I think it's very valuable. Possibly because I represent a part of the county that was not involved actually in the pilot. We've been hearing from constituents for years who have friends in other districts who have had access to a bus app or something. And so it's always the question is always, well, what is it about us that makes it so hard to do this? Now, you've obviously answered a lot of that in particulars, but I think it's worth, as the feedback is given, making clear the complexities. And I'm assuming part of it has to do with our size. I'm assuming, there are all sorts of things that I probably don't know in depth. But, the fact that, for example, the systems don't talk to each other, does that have something to do with our technological situation as it now stands with everything else? So, I think it's good to sort of, as we always are, be as transparent as we can with all the information so that we anticipate some of those questions, because clearly everything you've laid out, I think it makes a great deal of sense to conclude the pilot as it now stands and move forward. But I think the fact remains that notwithstanding concerns, as Ms. Corkadal referenced some of her constituents about personal data, there's also a very powerful concern among families about security and knowing where their children are should something hit, and knowing if they're on the bus, what bus, and so forth. So I do think that's an ongoing, unfortunately, in our world, a continuing concern. And so I hope we'll continue to pursue, in a smart way, what may be out there that can help us match up with this in a better way. So thank you very much. And thank you to the whole team for all the work. I know this was a big lift and we're very grateful to you. And it sounds like it was a very valuable exercise. So thank you.
Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you, President Silworth. I have a couple questions and then a couple of comments too. So a bus app, as Dr. Tobin had referenced, you could, from what I understood, part of the stop arm camera technology that we discussed and added into our budget a couple of years ago had the GPS capacity to do some sort of bus app that could track the buses, but not the students. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we could still potentially do something like that separate from this type of program. I mean, obviously you would want it all integrated and you would look forward to that at some point. But that is still a potential, correct?
Very much so.
Okay, great. Is ZPass the only vendor that does the ridership data at this point?
Don't know the answer to that. And I'll pivot and turn over and see if anybody else behind me know what. There are competitors in this space.
There are competitors in space. Okay. I would just, so I would love to see both of these things occur. I would certainly, I do appreciate all of the data. I'm glad that you're not pursuing something that is not really feasible for our system. I think you gave a very compelling argument as to why there were some concerns. And I like that we tested this. I'm really appreciative of the fact that even the sort of leftover that we have are going to be put back into the system for good cause. I think this was really well done as a beta test. I would say I have two anecdotal stories that I want to share with you as a parent. The first one is when my child was in second grade on a public school bus, there was an accident and I wasn't notified for hours. So some sort of system that would have texted me or notified me, because all of the triage had to occur and there were some emergent issues. So those were priorities. And the parents of students who were not injured were sort of notified hours later. So my child was on a bus for hours in an accident site and I wasn't notified. So I would certainly be one of those parents who say, my child will have this. I will pay extra for it to know where he is and that he has gotten on the bus. He didn't wander off at some point. And I would certainly have bought into a system to ensure that. The second anecdotal story that I want to share with you is, since all of us have been on this board, there was a bus fire at Fort Smallwood Elementary School. Those students evacuated. The community was amazing and helped to secure those students, but they were on the side of the road in a wooded area. And I can imagine that the bus driver was not able to keep eyes on those students at every moment of that emergent situation, and little teeny kids potentially wandering into the street or the woods or not being able to be corralled the whole time is a concern, and it is a real life concern. So I would just really reiterate the desire to move forward and continue to test and continue to find something until we get it right. Although I do understand why this particular company is maybe not the one for us, and I really appreciate that we're not setting ourselves up for failure. I just really want to encourage you to continue because I think there is a huge need for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frank. I completely agree with her comments. And Dr. Hodge, I want to thank you, Ms. Whitehead, the entire staff for all that you've done for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to award of contracts. Do I hear a motion to bundle?
Yes, motion to bundle items 6.01 to 6.05.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to bundle and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Howe? Oh, we could just consensus. We have consensus. Okay. Dr. Bedell.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts on the consent items numbered 6.01 through 6.05.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
And Mr. Soakworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so we'll be moving on to action item 7.01, the administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends that the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and or appointed.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
And Mr. Soakworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 7.02, personnel. Dr. Bedell.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Mr. Soakworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item 7.03, school calendar.
Thank
Third reading.
you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of policy IB, subject to final correction for style and format. And for this, we will have Grace Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Good afternoon, President Silkworth, Vice President Frank, and members of the board. For the record, I'm Grace Wilson, Legislative and Policy Specialist. Policy IB school calendar is before you this afternoon on third reading. As a reminder, the policy is being revised to reflect our current practices used to develop and adopt the school calendar. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, I'm seeing no lights. I believe this is an action item, so we
Yes.
have a motion.
Yeah, move to adopt, barring any stylistic or tech edits.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Mr. Soakworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we moving to item 7.04, community use of facilities, also on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of policy KC, subject to final correction for style and format.
This policy is being updated to account for the expanded use of school facilities required for the blueprint for Maryland's future, including community schools and nonprofits operating in our schools under Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports Grants. And I'd be happy to take any questions on this policy as well.
Ms. Shawhan,
I can move at the appropriate time.
I think you could do so now.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Howe?
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, moving to item 7.05, items of legislation.
Yes, Mr. President, the administration will provide an update on the items of legislation, any updates that pertain to what we have presented as a school board and an administration, in addition to other policies that may be of interest to the school district. For that, I pass it over to Grace Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Before I take any questions you may have regarding the items of legislation exhibit, I did want to provide you with a brief update on our priority legislation for this session, that it being House Bill 881 and Senate Bill 909, entitled Anne Arundel Public Schools Innovative School Scheduling Pilot Program. The bill has been heard in both the House and the Senate, and based on, it was a productive conversation. And in order to address some of the questions and concerns raised, we are now proposing amendments to the bill. Those amendments were shared with you this morning via email, and they include removing year-round schooling as a permissive, innovative school model that may be explored via our pilot program, limiting the use of 4-day school weeks to the secondary level only, requiring that a school day of an innovative school scheduling model consist of a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 7.5 instructional hours, and detailing the process that will be used to provide our notice of intent to operate an innovative school scheduling pilot program. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have about these amendments or our items of legislation exhibit.
Ms. Frank?
Yes, I appreciate the amendments. Thank you. And I think that those are well constructed. I do have a couple of comments and questions on particular items. I want to start with page 22, HB 1175. This is to prohibit us from entering, or prohibit the Board of Ed from entering into a subcontracting agreement that replaces or supplements any work performed. Can you outline what would happen if this does pass, and how would this affect our ability to comply with federal law?
This bill will, if passed, will have a significant impact on the school system. The fiscal note notes that it has the potential to significantly increase school system expenditures. It may impact our ability to comply with federal law as it relates to providing mandated IEP services and special education services, because this bill would require that there is a process that we go through before we are able to subcontract out to another individual. So there is the potential that that delay could cause a lapse with federal law compliance.
And then are there any other sort of unforeseen complications besides just our special education population?
There's significant. There's the potential for an impact to our transportation system, as we do have transportation employees. It may affect our ability to continue contracting out those services. It may also apply to things as simple as maintenance, because we do have maintenance facility staff here. We may not be able to call an emergency plumber or something of that nature. When emergencies do arise, it really ties our hands.
I think the emergency plumber is an excellent reason why we would not support this bill. Noted. So we should call our delegates in the we have that particular issue. I appreciate that. I have a couple of other questions. Are there others who want to speak, or am I able to? Okay, thank you, sir. 1169, I think I skipped. Sorry. Yes, same page 22, 1169. It was my understanding that this wouldn't particularly affect us. But there are schools that are looking at potentially being closed due to staffing allocations required by the recent blueprint mandates. So I would just want to reiterate, would this affect us at all? And ask that question.
To the best of my knowledge, no. We do have schools that may be exempt from this, but because school system wide, we are looking at that reallocation occurring. There's not going to be a chance where one school being exempt would have a significant system-wide impact for us, that we would be able to take those administrative costs up to our level to really maximize it.
Okay. I understand your support with amendments. I understand why you said that. I honestly, I would, if it were me, and clearly it's not, I probably would have said no position just because I don't think it affects us. But I do understand your reasoning. So I do appreciate that there are, by the way, how many thousands of bills this session?
We are over 4,000.
Yeah. Have we ever been over 4,000? No. And yeah.
You can ask that question every year. And we'll say, have we ever been that many
Yeah,
before? And the answer's
exponentially
always
more than
no.
when we started.
And
a
then they
couple
add
years
another
ago.
1,000.
Yeah.
It's not even a couple hundred now.
So I really appreciate that you're following. There's a lot. The legislative packets that we've been getting are incredibly robust, and I do appreciate a lot of this.
Of course.
The last bill that I want to talk about is 1319 on gaming. And actually, I do appreciate that you took some time to speak with me earlier. I missed that there were two very similar bills. Could you speak to that and which one you think actually is a little bit more beneficial to the school system?
Sure. The two bills are House Bill 1319 on page 29 of your legislative exhibit. This is sponsored by Delegate Atterbury. So this bill would allow a licensed applicant who is applying to have an internet gaming license to set the amount that of the proceeds that they will receive from revenue brought in, and then 1% will go to the state lottery and gaming control agencies, 1% to problem gambling, 1% to local education agencies, and the remainder to the Blueprint Fund. The other bill is Senate Bill 603 on page 36 of your legislative exhibit. This is sponsored by Senator Watson. This bill establishes across the board that 53% of those proceeds go to the license holder. 1% go to the state lottery, 1% to the problem gambling fund, and 45% of the remainder of that go to the Blueprint Fund. And in my opinion, Senate Bill 603 is a stronger bill for us because it provides some consistency and how we can project our revenue moving forward. Of course, with these gaming licenses, we never know how much we're going to get, but 45% of an estimate is better than not knowing what funding will be coming towards us.
Okay, and then, so my only concern with this is that we had some casino legislation that came in very long time ago, and what ended up happening was there was a shuffling and a reallocation. So now some of those funds do go to the school system, but the state reduced what they were inputting prior to that, and it was not a particularly fond memory for those of us who have that. So I wanted to ensure, and this legislation that is 603, the language is much firmer this time around, when we would be a little bit more insured to have an increase directly from the passage of this bill, correct?
It may not necessarily be an increase, but it's full funding for the Blueprint for Maryland's future is secured without having to dip into general fund revenue.
Okay.
And this bill is clear that it does not just go to public education, it goes to the Blueprint for Maryland's Future Fund, which is dedicated in law for a specific purpose, implementing the blueprint.
So the other side of that is, if this didn't pass, we would end up having to pay those funds.
We're looking, in the General Assembly, we're looking at a funding cliff with the blueprint. I believe it lasts through FY27. So after that, there will have to be additional revenue found somewhere, whether through cuts, whether through increased tax revenue to fund that moving forward.
Correct. So this is their way of trying to
balance that out now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, Ms. Frank. Ms. Schallheim.
Going back to HB 1175, SB 1043, do we believe that this bill has legs?
No.
Good. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
There's a significant fiscal note that's accompanied by this bill. So I very much doubt that the state, given the budgetary issues that they're currently experiencing, are looking to increase costs for local school systems as well.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Of course.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Frank.
Do you have that fiscal impact handy?
Absolutely.
Did I not see it?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not provided by me in my office. That's
Okay.
the Department of Legislative Services. And there's no number associated with it. It just says it's a potential for
Okay,
significant
okay.
increase.
But we don't have it. I thought you said that there was a number. I apologize.
No, just
Just that
the
it's significant.
Department of Legislative
Gotcha.
Services best estimate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Once
Thank
Once
you.
again, thank you, Ms. Wilson. So item 8.0 review items. Any questions? No. And public comments on non-agenda items. We do not have any public comments on non-agenda items this afternoon. So our next general board meeting will be on Wednesday, March the 20th, a 6:30 p.m. meeting here in the boardroom. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. I didn't hear a second, but I'm sure there's one there.
Second.
Good afternoon.